How are we doing, everybody? Welcome into the SFS channel here for Week 17 Fantasy Football. In this episode, I'm going to be breaking down 5 wide receivers that I like as starters here. I think they've got some boom potential or have the chance to just be really solid lineup, reliable studs here for this week's game. So as always, we're going to have the tiers coming out in tomorrow's episode, so stay tuned for that. But we've also got our 5 must-start running backs today as well. Make sure to check out that video after you're done watching this one, and let's dive right on in. All right, I referenced this in the running backs episode, but if you guys are looking for some more updated, spontaneous analysis, I guess you could call it, make sure you check us out on Twitter at Sizzle Fantasy. The link is in the description, as is our Discord server, which is free to join, and it's basically just a large fantasy group chat with a bunch of guys in there fighting for league championships. It's a super good time. I want to be able to support you guys, and I'm popping in that Discord server 5, 6, 7, probably at sometimes 10 plus times a day. I'm answering questions for gold members. I'm providing updates, sending links to tweets and stuff. So whereas the comment sections here, we do honestly try to get back to as many of you as possible, but the response rate, I would say, is much higher in that Discord server, and we're dropping little nuggets of information in there as well. So check that stuff out if you haven't done so already. As I always say, though, your questions are welcome, and I'll get back to as many of you as I can, but it's just a little bit easier in that Discord when you are constantly popping up on my phone in my notifications box when you send something in any of the servers there. So for Garrett Wilson, we're loving this. Owners, you can rejoice here this week. Hopefully, you didn't drink the Kool-Aid and start him last week. We had bad weather and Zach Wilson. That's just like the fantasy circumstances from hell for his Thursday night game against the Jaguars here. But it's expected that Mike White will be back in the lineup here for Week 17. So that is, of course, great and phenomenal news for managers in the Fantasy Football Championships. He's a probably strong wide receiver to play, even better if you can flex him here. At Seattle isn't the best matchup in the world, but I do see some kind of cracks in the defensive foundation for that team. You've got their offense eroding a bit here. I'm seeing more time on the field, or it seems like less of a break between series here for Seattle's defense, because their offense has been lowered in their overall effectiveness here. The last few weeks, we've seen Seattle plummet from what looked like a pretty much lock to be in the postseason to now being below 500 for, I believe, the first time this season. So really, really interesting stuff here. They do have really solid guys in the back end like Tariq Woolen, Kobe Bryant, but Garrett Wilson, I believe, is just a different animal at this wide receiver position, and as long as he gets the targets, Mike White will fit in some tight passes. He'll get him his opportunities. He is an intelligent enough player to understand he needs to distribute the ball to his best, wide receivers and assets around the field. He has gotten that job done in essentially every start he's had this year, where he's been healthy start to finish, and probably his shakiest start was against Buffalo when he was getting absolutely killed with no protection in the pocket. So Garrett Wilson, starting him this week at Seattle. Like this matchup again. He had a really weird matchup this past week, as I said, with Zach Wilson playing, the weather, and then he actually had a lost fumble on. It was really hard to see what happened in live time, but they reversed it, and he shrugged off a tackler, and as that tackler was like falling to the ground, he ninja kicked the football out of Garrett Wilson's arms. So really, really weird stuff there. Anyways, moving on to Jerry Jeudy here, Denver at Kansas City for this Week 17 showdown. I like this one a lot, not just because Jerry had his best game of the season and arguably his fantasy career when these teams squared off a few weeks back. What was that? Week 14, he had a hat trick, scoring 3 touchdowns, 2 of them with Russell Wilson. This was also a game, I believe, without Cortland Sutton. One of them was with Brett Rippon, the backup quarterback. I also like this matchup the second time around here, because of the fact that now this Denver defense has started to show signs of cracks, crumbling on potential erosion in their level of play. So whereas we expected this the first time for Kansas City, hanging points, causing this Denver team to play in a large deficit and come from behind, I'm now expecting that to be the case even more so here the second time around. Mahomes played really sloppy. I think he'll play a little bit more buttoned up here. I think he'll take what's given to him and still hang a lot of points on the board. I'm expecting a blowout, playing catch up from behind, lots of passing volume late, and hopefully, just maybe, the kind of rally around the locker room effect of firing the head coach that's led to such a disastrous season will maybe elevate the offense's play a little bit. We'll see how they look without Nat Hackett in that situation. Extremely odd to see their mid-season hire of a clock management specialist be taking over as their interim head coach, but regardless and nonetheless, I think that this is a good situation. Jerry Jeudy has been exceptionally reliable when healthy this season. It hasn't been the most prevalent factor of this season. He's been banged up and obviously inconsistent for a large stretch of the year, but 4 straight games the last month of 65 plus yards receiving in each game. He has also had 8 or more targets in 3 weeks straight. So taking out that 4th game in that month-long window, 3 of those games, the volume has been great. And again, his production has been reliable in those contests. So really liking him here as a strong flex play this week. Next up here, let's dive into Zay Jones, Jacksonville at Houston this week. I really like the perimeter matchup for Zay Jones in this Jaguars football team here. First and foremost, you're playing a Houston Texans team this week that recently placed their star young cornerback Derek Stingley Jr. on the injured reserve. So that immediately opens up kind of a weakness in the perimeter of the defensive secondary. Second of all, the reason I don't put a guy like Christian Kirk on this list, not because I don't think he can have a solid game here, but as I actually have a little bit of respect for the slot cornerback play of this Texans defense. Desmond King has been a guy who's been really, really solid throughout his NFL career, but since leaving Los Angeles and the Chargers a couple years back for Tennessee and then later finding his way in Houston here, he doesn't get very much national attention or spotlight. So not necessarily a guy that we talk about all the time, but does play really good out of that slot position. Now we'll see how, maybe they jumble up their defense a little bit and give him some more looks on the perimeter without a guy like Stingley. But at the end of the day, we'll have to wait and see kind of how that factors out in this game. Regardless, though, I do like that perimeter matchup for Zay Jones in this matchup. This is a guy who is coming off of his worst performance since week 8, which is a quite lengthy stretch of time to go back here. In week 8, he had just 3 targets. If we look at this game here, he had just 4, this week 16 semifinal matchup. But I don't think I've touched on this yet. There was weather, precipitation, bad winds. All of that kind of factored into a lesser level of offensive passing production, especially downfield. So clearly having a critical impact on Zay Jones's fantasy value. They were getting a lot of stuff out in the flats to Evan Ingram off of RPO passes. Play action was semi-effective as well, and then they had Travis Etienne running the ball, and he did cough up a fumble, but he did still have some good production in that area of the field. So moral of the story, the bottom line here, I'm expecting really good things in an indoor facility for Jacksonville this week with some lightened up perimeter coverage from this Texans defense. And Zay Jones, one last thing here I will reference for him. He's had 45 targets, averaging 9 per game in his last 5 games here. That includes the 4 target performance from week 16. Brandon Aiyuk here, San Francisco traveling to, Allegiant Stadium here in Las Vegas, another controlled weather environment that is humongous for wide receiver play this week. That's been something that week 16, I think it was the most I have ever talked about weather in my entire life. I am not a 50-plus-year-old individual, as you can obviously tell. So the weather is not a really large focal point of my day-to-day conversation. So that was really something to behold. I will be thinking about that probably a lot more next season around this time, looking at road Midwest and Northeast playoff schedule matchups. That was brutal for guys like Devontae Adams. We saw quarterback play also functioning as well and just totally derailed DeAndre Hopkins' value. We had a really disappointing fantasy bust list from the divisional round. I can get into that another time, maybe on Twitter. Another reason to follow Sizzle Fantasy on Twitter or check out the Discord server. But the bottom line here, once again, for Aiyuk is that this will be indoors. There will not be precipitation indoors, and you will not have extreme winds indoors. So I like this matchup a lot. He's been incredibly efficient all year. He is clearly, as a player and as a talent, he's always been incredible. Don't get me wrong there. But I have seen a leap from him that I wasn't necessarily expecting to see this year. And he's been fantastic. And now that you've got Debo back out of the lineup, it isn't so much of a red flag for me to have Brock Purdy as the starting quarterback. Had Debo still been a part of this team and you're seeing a lot of short passing game volume go his way, I would be a little bit more skeptical to be on Brandon Aiyuk as a not draft pick, but a starting level player, I guess, here down the stretch. But in this matchup against a Raiders team that I don't believe really has a lot to play for, if you saw, there's a Twitter clip circulating this week with Josh Jacobs this team, this locker room, they're pissed off. They feel defeated. The morale, I'm guessing, is exceptionally low for that locker room after blowing yet another lead. So I think this 49ers team that's riding high, they are playing with confidence. They have everything in their season to play for. I think they still might have an outside path to the number 1 seed. I could be wrong on that, but they are certainly within, the top couple of seeds in that NFC playoff picture here. They're humming and they're playing physical football. They beat down teams that they go up against here. And I just think that this is a really good spot for an efficient, uber talented player facing a weak Raiders secondary. Aiyuk had 81 yards receiving on 7 targets, just 5 receptions. So, I'm not a math magician here or mathematician, but you essentially, if you look at 80 yards and say he had 4 catches, that'd be 20 plus yards per reception. 5 catches is just above that. I can't do that division in my head, but you get what I'm trying to say here. It's not taking very much opportunity for him to produce. And if he finds the end zone, which really isn't that hard to make a case for, you could have yourself a nice 15, 16 point production performance here. Finally, I thought we had all, and really not we, me, we. You know what? I'll say we. This has definitely not been something that just I have been on here. I'd say the entire fantasy community has been on it. But personally, in terms of my content here, I have banished Drake London from fantasy football lineups for months now. I'm letting him back into the circle here. Call me crazy. You guys can call me stupid in the comment section. But the change in offense from Marcus Mariota to Desmond Ridder has been a different football team. Yes, they've taken back-to-back L's. Yes, they have been atrocious at scoring points on the board. But every time I watch this Falcons offense play, in between the 20s, they move the ball very easily, it seems. They are marching up and down the field, but then they get uber aggressive, exotic, and risky in the red zone, and their red zone offense has been piss poor, and they don't quite have the juice to take the top off the defense and make freebie touchdowns happen that way just yet. So this is basically a field goal offense right now, but they're moving the ball, as I said. And if you go back the last 3 weeks here, Drake London has 32 targets in his last 3 games. That is over 10, just under 11 opportunities per game in the passing game. If we go back to his last 2 games with Desmond Ridder as the starter, he's got 20 targets in those last 2 games, so averaging exactly on the head of 10 opportunities per contest. Now, unfortunately for Drake London, he has lost a fumble in each of those games and actually at really unopportune times here, but he's putting up numbers, and Desmond Ridder has been throwing really pretty passes, hitting him in stride, on time, on target. These are the reasons I really liked Ridder coming out of Cincinnati as a prospect for a team this year. They're getting the job done. This is no longer a collegiate option-style offense. They run the ball a whole lot. They are still not a high-volume passing offense, but they're losing games. They're negative game scripts, and they have a quarterback that can actually throw the ball with relative accuracy here. So Drake, to me, in PPR formats where you can soak up that free and cheap volume, has become a flex level and worthy lineup start here. You're seeing the volume, you're seeing the talent, that's important too, and you're seeing the quarterback play being able and competent of delivering a respectable enough production to get him in those lineups here. So really excited for what this can mean in 2023. We'll see if Atlanta replaces Ridder. I do think he's doing a nice job. I just think he's undermanned in terms of his surrounding talent. No Kyle Pitts. You're talking Drake London or bust. I thought they had lined CPAT out a little bit more than they do at receiver and try and just get him playmakers in that way. But you're talking about Olamide Zaccheaus being your second option in the passing game. That's just not cutting it. And for right now, for the Week 17 bubble and what that means for your fantasy championships, is that Drake London is a lock to get volume, get targets, get opportunities, and this Arizona defense, not necessarily something that I'm shaking in my boots about here. So to recap, Garrett Wilson at Seattle is our first must start this week. Jeudy at Kansas City. Zay Jones or Christian Kirk too, but particularly I like Zay Jones here at Houston. Brandon Aiyuk at Las Vegas, and then Drake London against the Arizona Cardinals here. One more time, if you guys haven't given me a follow on Twitter at Sizzle Fantasy, I'd appreciate that. Hopefully I can drop some value and informational nuggets to you on those platforms as well. community Discord server, free to join. You can hop in there as well. I did drop this in the running backs episode, so I will basically give it out to you guys here as well if you stuck around to this point in the episode. I was talking through a tweet from Underdog NFL, and I figured, hey, it's the holiday season. We're getting close to the 2023 new year here. For those of you guys that want to check out Underdog Fantasy, if you haven't done so already, and sign up using promo code SFS, that is our personalized promo code here at the Sizzle Fantasy Sports YouTube channel. If you sign up using code SFS, deposit $10 or more, you will get double your money, up to $100 in your account to play with, to earn more cash on the NFL playoffs here or the last couple of weeks of this regular season. And my gift to you is I will give you our 2023 All Access Pass, which includes our Rookie Dynasty Kit that I'm putting together right now, our Dynasty Guide for the 2023 season, which includes over 200 player profiles with in-depth analysis on their outlooks for the upcoming season, and our 2023 redraft kit. This is all pre-order content, as of course I don't have it right now, but it will be coming your way and you will be the first to see it, as you will get access to all this stuff. Again, my late Christmas present and early New Year's gift to you guys. I'm not going to do that here after this week, but I thought I'd toss it out there. I didn't even plan on doing this. I just figured I'd toss it out there. So hopefully you guys are interested in that. Go check that out. It's a huge support to us when you guys do sign up using our code on Underdog. So I appreciate the heck out of all of you. Good luck this week. I'll come out with tiers later in the week here with our rankings for at least running backs and wide receivers. My schedule here is crazy with the holiday season and traveling. I never know when I'll be able to get in my studio and when I won't. But we'll for sure get you those running backs and receivers tiers and rankings. Maybe I will get quarterbacks and tight ends out there as well. Of course, Gold members have access to all that stuff in the website. We're talking video content here for Week 17. So good luck in your championships. Questions, comments, concerns, go in the comment section below. I'll get back to as many of you as I possibly can, but I talked about this in the running back episode as well, and this is why I tossed out Twitter and Discord. I've got a higher response rate on there. It just pops right up in my notification center, which YouTube doesn't always do for some reason. They pick their spots. It's actually quite frustrating, but regardless, that stuff seems to be much more accessible for me. So check that stuff out. I'll see you there. Peace out.